Hi, myself Dr. Manjula S, working as Assistant Professor and Head of the Department of Botany in Government First Grade College, Ramanagara. In this video, I will explain the structure and functions of plant tissues, which is prescribed by the Bangalore University in first BSc, second semester Botany syllabus. This topic is of much importance as it is the basic of botany one should know to study histology and anatomy of plants. So, I begin with the definition of tissues. Tissues are defined as the group of cells having common origin, similar cell structure, and all the cells work together to perform the common functions. In this picture, we can see some tissues like xylem and phloem, which forms the vascular tissues, which generally helps in conduction of water and food, whereas the ground tissues, which include parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma cells, which generally helps in storing food and giving mechanical support to the plant body. And the third type is called the dermal tissue, which constitute the epidermis, which will give protection to the inner structure of the plants. Then, coming to the plant tissues are mainly categorized into two types. The first category is called the meristematic tissues, which is again subdivided into apical meristems, intercalary meristem, and lateral meristems. The second category is called the permanent tissues. Permanent tissues are again subdivided into three parts. First one is simple permanent tissue, which includes parenchyma, sclerenchyma, and collenchyma. The second one of permanent tissue is called complex permanent tissue, which includes xylem and phloem, which are the vascular tissues. Then the third category is called the special tissue, which includes the protective tissues and glandular tissues. In this slide, we can see some different types of tissues found in the plants. The first one is called the meristematic tissues, where all the cells have the capacity to divide and redivide to form the permanent tissues. Here we can find the different stages of mitosis, where the cells undergo division to form the permanent tissues. This is the protective tissue. Epidermis is the example for protective tissue, which will give protection for the internal structure of plants. Then comes the permanent tissues. This parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma are called simple permanent tissue, and the xylem and phloem are called as complex permanent tissues. Let me start with the first type of tissue, that is meristematic tissues. Meristematic tissues are otherwise known as meristems. They are a group of cells which are densely packed. They have ability to divide, capable of stretching, enlarging, and differentiating to form other types of tissues. The cells are smaller in size, spherical or polygonal in shape, thin-walled, elastic. They are provided with big nucleus, which is very active, and a dense cytoplasm. They are compactly arranged without any intercellular space. They are immature cells. They have the potential to divide and form new cells. They present at the growing regions like shoot apex and root apex, and hence they will bring about the growth of these regions of the plant. They divide and differentiate to form various permanent tissues. Coming to the functions of meristems, it acts as a permanent tissue which forms other tissues. It takes part in growth by forming new cells. New organs of plants like leaves, stem branches, flowers, fruit, etc. are formed by the meristems. If there is any injury in the plant, it is healed by the formation of new cells of meristems. It also takes part in bringing secondary growth in some plants as the vascular cambium in the vascular region and cork cambium in the cortex region. Then coming to the classification of meristems. Based on the position in plant body, meristems are generally categorized into three types. The first one is called apical meristems. The apical meristems occur in growing tips of the stem, which is otherwise known as shoot apex, shoot apical meristem, and if it is present at the root apex, that type of meristem is called root apical meristem, which brings the growth in lengthwise. Then second type is called intercalary meristem. It occurs at intermediate position like base of the leaf, internodes and nodal region, which bring the growth of leaves and internodes. Then the third type of meristem is called the lateral meristems. These meristems occur on the sides of the stem and root, and hence they will increase in the girth of a plant. The lateral meristem is of two types. First one is called vascular cambium, which is present at the vascular bundle, and it produces secondary tissues like secondary xylem and secondary phloem. The second type of lateral meristem is called the cork cambium, which produces the protective cork during the secondary growth in plants. Based on the position, as I already told, there are three types of meristems. Apical meristem, which is present at the shoot apex or at the root apex. They cause the primary growth of the plant. That means they will increase the length of a plant. They will bring about the lengthwise growth of a plant. Whereas the second type, this is the intermediate or intercalary meristem, which is present at the base of the leaf or nodal or internodal region, which will be responsible for the bringing about the leaf growth and internode growth. Then the third type is called the lateral meristem, which is present at the lateral position of the plant, which causes the secondary growth, hence results in increase in the girth of a plant. It occurs at the cambium and produces bark in trees. Coming to the second type of tissue called permanent tissues. Permanent tissues are already differentiated from the meristematic tissues. They lost their ability to divide and they assumed a permanent shape, size and function, and hence the name permanent tissues. The permanent tissues are categorized into simple permanent tissues, which include parenchyma, sclerenchyma and collenchyma. The second one is called the complex permanent tissue, which includes the xylem and phloem. The third one is called special tissues, which include protective and glandular tissues. So let me tell you the characteristics of permanent tissues. Permanent tissues cells have definite shape and size which do not alter afterwards. They may be living or dead. Cells may be simple, complex or special type. There may be intercellular space present or absent. Cell wall may be thin or thick. If there is thickening, it may be regular or irregular. Normally do not have the division capacity. The nucleus of the permanent tissues is less conspicuous and cell organelles are well developed. Cells comes to have specific functions. So let me explain the simple permanent tissues. Cells of simple permanent tissues are similar in origin, similar in structure, and they have performing the similar function. They are of two types. Simple permanent tissues are of two types like parenchyma. These are the oval shaped or polygonal cells with or without intercellular space. The second type is called collenchyma. Collenchyma is the mechanical tissue where there is a thickening only in the corners. And the third type of simple permanent tissue is called sclerenchyma. Sclerenchyma is a dead mechanical tissue where there is the secondary wall thickening with the lignin. Let me explain the parenchyma structure and function in detail. Parenchyma are thin-walled, isodiametric living cells. Their cell wall is made up of with cellulose. Cells are oval in shape, either spherical in shape or polygonal or rectangular in shape, with central vacuole, peripheral cytoplasm and nucleus. Since there is a nucleus, the parenchyma cell is a living tissue. They are loosely packed with small or large intercellular spaces. They are most abundant found in stem, root, flowers and fruit parts of the plant. There are different types of parenchyma based on the function they are going to be performed. Like storage parenchyma, which will store the starch grains. The parenchyma cells which will store the starch grains, those are called as storage parenchyma. Then second type is called the prosenchyma. Prosenchyma are special type of parenchyma which are elongated in shape with a tapering end, and there are large intercellular space between them. Then the third type of parenchyma is called chlorenchyma. As the name itself indicates, the parenchyma cells provided with the chloroplast are called chlorenchyma. They are usually present in leaf mesophyll, which generally helps in synthesis of food. Then fourth type is called aerenchyma. Aerenchyma are special type of parenchyma which are filled with air gaps, which are generally found in hydrophytes. They generally helps in buoyancy or floating of a plant. Then vascular parenchyma. Vascular parenchyma is a special type of parenchyma, is associated with vascular bundles like xylem parenchyma and phloem parenchyma, which generally helps in conduction. Medullary parenchyma is a parenchyma present at the medullary rays, is called as medullary parenchyma. Then the last type is called armed parenchyma. Armed parenchyma is a special type of parenchyma found in leaf of Pinus, where the cells show invagination, finger-like ingrowths are present at the inner wall of the parenchyma. So in this figure we can find different types of parenchymas, like this is aerenchyma, helps in buoyancy. This is storage parenchyma, which helps in storage of food material. This is the chlorenchyma, helps in synthesis of food. And this is the armed parenchyma, present in case of Pinus leaf. Coming to the functions of parenchyma. They store food and water, tannin, resins and gums etc. as a storage tissue. The cells remain turgid and provide support of softer parts. Xylem parenchyma take part in lateral transport of materials, whereas the chlorenchyma containing chloroplast helps in synthesis of food, and aerenchyma, as it stores gas and helps in buoyancy in hydrophytes. The epidermis, as a specialized parenchyma, it provides protection to the internal structure of plant. Then come to the second simple tissue, that is collenchyma. Collenchyma is simple, permanent and living mechanical tissue. It provides flexibility to softer aerial parts like leaf and young stem that bends without breaking. Cell walls are thickened unevenly. In this diagram we can see the thickening of cell wall, which is uneven at the corners. The thickening may be due to deposition of pectin or cellulose with little intercellular spaces. The cells are usually elongated in shape, but they appear oval, spherical or angular in its cross section. They usually occurs below the epidermis of leaf base, midribs, in dicot stems. In this slide we can see the wall thickening in case of collenchyma. This is a transverse section of collenchyma cells where we can observe the thickening of pectin and cellulose only at the corner wall. And this is a longitudinal section of collenchyma where there is a large vacuole and single nucleus is present, and the thickening is at the end walls in the corners. Then coming to the types of collenchyma. So based on the thickening pattern, the collenchyma cells are of three types: lamellar collenchyma, angular collenchyma and lacunar collenchyma. Whereas in case of lamellar collenchyma, the thickening of pectin and cellulose is at the tangential wall, is at the lamella. Lamella thickening is observed here. Whereas in case of angular collenchyma, the thickening is at the angles. The thickening of pectin and cellulose is only at the angles. In the lacunar collenchyma, the thickening is at the space or lacuna. So these are the three different types of collenchyma based on the thickening pattern. Coming to the functions of collenchyma, because of collenchyma, plant organs can bend without breaking. They provide mechanical strength and flexibility to the plant body. It allows growth and elongation of organs. Being a living tissue, since it provided with a nucleus, it also stores food material. Sometimes it contains chloroplast and take part in synthesis of food material. The third type of simple permanent tissue is sclerenchyma. They are long, narrow, dead, highly thickened cells with little intercellular spaces. The thickening is made up of lignin. Here, the lignin is going to be deposited as a secondary wall thickening, which functions as a cement, which is hard in nature, and the unthickened areas are called as pits. If there is no thickening in this place, that unthickened areas are known as pits. Sclerenchymas are usually occurs in non-growing regions of the plant body, such as bark or mature stem, and also around the vascular bundles as a bundle sheet. Coming to the classification of sclerenchyma. Sclerenchyma cells or tissues are categorized into two parts. First one is called the sclerites. Sclerites are variable in shape. They present in various parts of the plant such as periderm, cortex and pith. They constitute the hard parts of the plants. There are different types of sclerites like brachysclerites, macrosclerites, osteosclerites, asterosclerites and trichosclerites, which may be defined as the brachysclerites are same as the parenchyma cells with large lumen in their cell wall. Then the macrosclerites, as the name itself indicates, they are large sclerites. They are provided with a wide lumen in their cell wall. Then the third type is called the osteosclerites. Osteo means bone shape. Here also they are same as macrosclerites, but their end walls look like the bone, hence the name osteosclerites. Here also the lumen is wide. Then the fourth type of sclerite is called asterosclerites. Here it is giving the appearance like star shape and there is a wide lumen in the center. Then the last one is called the trichosclerites, which look like a trichome or air-like structure where the lumen is narrow. So these are the different type of sclerites. Then coming to the fibers. Fibers are elongated cells, elongated dead cells. They are of two types, xylary fibers and extraxylary fibers. They are with tapering. This is a fiber where there is a large lumen and they are provided with the tapering ends. The fibers again classified into two types, xylary fibers and extraxylary fibers. If the fibers are associated with the xylem elements, that is called the xylary fibers, and if it is associated with the phloem element, then it is called the extraxylary fibers. Coming to the functions of sclerenchyma, fibers which are thick-walled and elongated, they are usually found in groups or bundles which will provide maximum support to the plants. Important source of raw materials for textiles. The sclerites are otherwise known as stone cells. They are spherical or oval or thickened dead cells. They usually constitute the hard covering of nuts and coconut shell. Functions as chief mechanical tissue. Sclerenchyma functions as the chief mechanical tissue which provide strength to the plant. They form the protective covering around the seeds and nuts, and sclerenchyma fibers of some plants like jute, coconut and hemp are of commercial importance. Then coming to the complex permanent tissues. Complex permanent tissues are nothing but the collection of different types of tissues which work together to perform a common function. Example, the conducting tissues are examples of complex permanent tissues which are otherwise known as the vascular tissue, which include the xylem and phloem. Here we can find the complex nature of the xylem and phloem since they are made up of with different types of elements, 2 or 3 elements joined together to perform the single function, hence the name complex tissue. So let me explain the xylem and its function in detail. Xylem is a specialized type of vascular tissue present in vascular plants which generally helps in transport of water and mineral nutrients from the roots of a plant to the tip of the leaves. It provides mechanical support and it is also called as the wood. There are 4 elements present in the xylem tissue. One is called tracheids, the second one is called vessels, third one is called xylem fibers, and the fourth element is called xylem parenchyma. Tracheids are long, tubular, dead cells with lignified walls, and they have tapering ends at their tips. The ends are tapering. They possess various types of thickenings for mechanical support. Then coming to the second type of element present in the xylem, that is called vessels. Vessels are long, tubular cells with lignified walls. They are more efficient than tracheids in conduction of water. So, tracheids and vessels are the 2 main conducting elements of the xylem. Then coming to the third element in the xylem, that is called the xylem parenchyma. The parenchyma cells associated with the xylem are called as xylem parenchyma, which stores food and generally helps in lateral conduction of water and minerals. This xylem parenchyma is the only living tissue in the xylem, remaining all other 3 elements like tracheids, vessels and xylem fibers are dead cells, whereas the xylem parenchyma is the only living element in the xylem. Coming to the fibers, xylem fibers are otherwise known as the sclerenchyma fibers associated with the xylem. They are called xylem fibers. They have thick wall, pitted walls with narrow lumen and tapering ends which provide mechanical support to the plant. Based on the lignin thickening of tracheids, the xylem tracheids are of various types like annular tracheids, spiral tracheids, scalariform tracheids and reticulate tracheids and pitted tracheids. So as I already told, depending on the lignin thickening, if the lignin is going to be deposited in the form of an annual ring, one after the other, that type of tracheids are called as annular tracheids. If the lignin is deposited in the form of a spiral manner, so that type of tracheid is called spiral tracheid. If the lignin is deposited in the form of a ladder, that is called scalariform. If the lignin is deposited in netted manner, netted shape, netted manner, that tracheid is called as reticulate. If the lignin is deposited throughout the tracheid, except in some places, that unthickening areas are called pits. If the pit is simple, that is called simple pit. If it is provided with a border, that is called the bordered pit. Coming to the functions of xylem. Tracheids and vessels being the main conducting elements of xylem, they conduct water and minerals from the roots to the top of the plant. Because of the presence of thick wall lignified components, it provides mechanical support to the plant. Wood is mostly made of xylem, which is of commercial value. Then coming to the second complex tissue, that is called phloem. Phloem is a specialized type of vascular tissue present in the vascular plants which take part in conduction of organic food from the leaves to other parts of the plant. Like xylem, in the phloem also there are 4 elements since it is a complex tissue, like sieve tube, companion cell, phloem parenchyma and phloem fibers. In this figure we can see all the 4 elements of xylem, like this is a companion cell, this is a sieve tube, this is phloem parenchyma. All these 3, sieve tube, companion cell and phloem parenchyma, are living in a xylem tissue, whereas the phloem fiber is the dead tissue. Coming to the functions of phloem, it translocates sugars made by photosynthetic areas of the plants to storage organs like roots, tubers or bulbs. Phloem fibers of some plants are of commercial value, example jute, hemp and flax. They are used for preparation of textiles. Then third category in the permanent tissue is called the special tissues. Special tissues include 2 types of tissues, protective tissue and glandular tissue. So first, the protective tissues, the cells forms the outer layer of the stem, root, leaf and flower, fruits are called protective tissues. They are of 2 types, epidermis and cork. So epidermis is a special type of parenchyma cells present at the outermost layer of stem or root, which is made up of with elongated rectangular shaped parenchyma cells. On its outer surface, sometimes it is provided with a thick waxy coating called cuticle, which generally helps in prevention of excess loss of water. And epidermis sometimes provided with a small opening called stomata, which helps in exchange of gases. They provide protection to the plant from adverse environmental factors and pathogens. Epidermis also performs specialized function like exchange of gases, since it is provided with a minute pores called stomata. It checks water loss because of the presence of a thick waxy coating called cuticle. Then the second type of protective tissue is called cork, which is usually present in the old stem, like in the bark portion, which will give protection to the inner part of the plant. Then coming to the second type of special tissue, that is called glandular tissue. This tissue consists of the special structures called glands. These glands contain some secretory or excretory products. It may consist of isolated cells or small group of cells with or without central cavity. They are of various kinds, may be internal or external to the plant surface. These are the examples of some glandular tissues. First one is oil gland secreting essential oils, which is present in fruits and leaves of orange and lemon, is an example of glandular tissue. Likewise, the mucilage secreting glands is found in the betel leaf, and glands secreting gum, resin and tannin are example of glandular tissue. The digestive glands secreting enzymes or digestive agents may be present in insectivorous or carnivorous plants, which will secrete certain enzymes which will digest the insect and get their nitrogen source. The special water secreting glands are present in some plants called hydatodes. They generally helps in guttation, excessive water loss. Then the glandular hair secreting gum-like substances is also an example of glandular tissue. Sometimes this glandular hair secreting irritating poisonous substance to get protection from the insects or any other animal grazing. Then honey glands, as in case of carnivorous plants. Carnivorous plants are otherwise known as insectivorous plant. They get their nitrogen source by digesting the insects. These are the examples of certain glandular tissues. So in this diagram we can see certain glandular tissues, like these are the examples of internal glands, and these are the example for external glands. Internal glands, this is an oil gland where the essential oils are secreted into the cavity. Then this is a resin duct. Usually we can see this in pinus, stem, leaf, everything, where the resin is going to be secreted into the duct, which is of commercial value, antimicrobial in nature. Then external glands, as I already told, this is the opening at the vein that is called hydathode, which generally helps in guttation. And this is the glandular hair, which will secrete certain poisonous material. And this is the nectary secreting glands, usually present in the flowers, which will secrete the nectar, hence they will attract the insects for pollination. Then the last one is called the digestive glands, which will secrete certain enzymes which are capable of digesting the insects and everything to get the nitrogen source which is present in insectivorous plants. So with this, I'm going to finish today's topic. Thank you so much.